If you're driven by that need to get deep, actionable knowledge, and fast, you've probably noticed this collision point in modern research.
Oh, absolutely. The world of ancient contemplative practice meeting.
Uh-huh.
You know, high-tech neuroimaging.
And we are doing a deep dive today, not into the usual stuff, not simple stress reduction or, introductory mindfulness. We're going straight for the heavy artillery.
We are. Advanced meditative states, traditionally known as samadhi or more specifically jhana.
Yeah, and these aren't just states of relaxation.
Not at all. These are highly structured, sequenced, and profoundly altered states of consciousness. Researchers are even giving it a new name.
AKMJ.
AKMJ, Advanced Concentrative Absorption Meditation.
Right, and historically, our entire understanding of these states came from these dense, very subjective texts.
And that's really the conflict at the heart of our sources today, isn't it? You have traditional Buddhist literature, like the Abhidhamma, with these astonishingly precise technical descriptions of the internal experience.
Detailing factors that drop away, factors that remain. It's
Yeah.
like a schematic. But then science comes along and demands objective evidence.
Precisely. So our mission today is to explore how modern cognitive neuroscience, using these ultra-high-resolution tools like 7 Tesla fMRI and advanced EEG, have started to actually validate this ancient system.
We're juxtaposing two massive traditions, Buddhist phenomenology and hard neuroscience, to find out if these incredible mental feats have, like, a physical address in the brain.
And the stakes are high. Because if we can objectively track and reproduce these states, it doesn't just revolutionize our understanding of consciousness.
No, it could offer a foundation for entirely new, cutting-edge therapies for, say, severe mental health conditions.
He connects 2,500 years of spiritual technology to the modern clinic.
Okay, let's unpack this. First, we need to establish what jhana actually is, because it's so distinct from what most people think of as meditation.
It is. We're not talking about general insight practice or vipassana.
This is samatha, tranquility practice.
Leading to a highly specific, sequenced absorption. The distinction is absolutely key. Jhana is concentration practice, where the entire force of the mind is focused on a single object.
It's often translated as meditative absorption, right?
It is, but the root word, chapeti, actually means to burn up.
Wait, hold on. To burn up, that seems counterintuitive for a state of bliss and tranquility.
It does, but it's because the goal is so radical and so active. You are intentionally, progressively, and with great effort withdrawing the personal, self-referential component.
What neuroscientists call the default consciousness.
Exactly, the DCs. You are burning up the 5 obstacles to absorption. That constant internal chatterbox, that mental evaluation of past versus future, that's what's being burned away.
So before you can even get into jhana, you have to stabilize your attention, usually on the breath and apanasati.
Yep. You have to do that to overcome the 5 hindrances.
Sense desire, ill will, restlessness.
Sloth and doubt. These are the key features, the noise and activity of our ordinary ego-driven consciousness. Quelling them is the ticket to the first 4 stages, the rupa jhanas.
Okay, so let's climb that ladder of absorption. The traditional texts, they really do operate like a precision engine manual. It's all about which mental factors must be present and which must be dropped.
It's a systematic journey. And the first jhana, J1, that's the biggest hurdle. It requires just a tremendous amount of concentration and effort to hold the absorption.
And to get there, you need to stabilize 2 specific types of attention, vitakka and vikara.
Yes.
Help us unpack those 2, because they often trip people up.
Okay, so think of it like this. If your focus is the breath, vitakka is the initial application. It's the mental act of placing your mind on the breath, like putting your hand on a steering wheel.
Okay.
Vikara is the sustained attention. It's the mental act of keeping the mind there. The gentle corrections you need to make to keep the car going straight.
So they're both effortful, directed thoughts.
Very much so. But if you can maintain those 2, you get the reward.
Which is?
PED, which is joy or rapture, sukha, which is happiness or mental bliss, and ekagata, one-pointedness.
And phenomenologically, the sources describe PD as this intense, almost electric physical pleasure that just permeates the body. A highly energized state.
It really is. I mean, some traditional texts describe it as an inner fountain of joy. It underscores that this is a fully functional, self-generated reward system.
The mind is stabilizing its focus and basically rewarding itself for it.
Exactly. But as the absorption deepens, the need for that gross mental effort, it just fades. The practice becomes less like steering the car and more like setting it on cruise control.
Which brings us to the second jhana, J2. This is where those 2 factors that require mental work, the vitakka and vikara, They drop out entirely.
They vanish because the concentration has become completely effortless and stable.
Yeah.
You're just ascended. In a state defined only by that intense, explosive joy, PDD, the underlying happiness, sukha, and the unified focus, ekagata.
So the feeling shifts from concentrated effort to just effortless rapture.
A huge shift. The absorption is deep, but that intense emotional energy is still there. So the next stage is about calming even that down.
J3. This is where piti, the intense rapture, drops away.
Correct. That ecstatic quality is gone. Because even that is seen as a disturbance to ultimate tranquility. What's left is a much deeper, more serene form of happiness.
Just sukha.
Just sukha. Profound contentment and mental serenity with one-pointedness. The difference is key. Piti is dynamic and exhilarating. Sukha is deep, quiet, lasting satisfaction.
And then the final form absorption, J4, where the last bit of pleasant feeling, the sukha, also leaves.
Yes. The meditator settles into a state defined purely by ekagata, one-pointedness, and upekkha, which is equanimity. It is a neutral, highly stabilized, utterly still awareness.
Neither pleasure nor pain, just
Absolutely.
peace.
And just to place this, that's only the form jhanas. Beyond J4, the journey continues into the formless jhanas, J5 through J8.
Which are about focusing on even more subtle things, right? Like infinite space, infinite consciousness.
Or even the perception of nothingness. They're even more remote from any sensory stimuli.
Yeah.
This entire detailed progression, J1 to J8, it gives scientists this perfect, ready-made matrix to test against brain activity.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me. How does the brain, this physical object, manage to generate these distinct self-stimulated states? Especially that intense volitional joy in J2 with no outside input.
Right, so now we shift to the objective data. Researchers focused on the most adept practitioners. I mean, we're talking about individuals with over 20,000 hours of documented practice.
Wow.
Using 7T fMRI, which gives incredible resolution, and advanced EEG to track these dynamic changes.
And the very first validation is the objective proof of something the meditators have claimed for centuries. Sensory withdrawal.
Absolutely. The moment the meditator enters the state, the brain actively shutters the external world. We see a significant, measurable decrease in activation in the primary sensory processing regions.
The visual and auditory cortices.
Exactly. And critically, we also see dramatically reduced activity in the key language centers, Broca's and Wernicke's areas.
So the subjective reports that external sounds fade, sights dim, that the internal narrator just goes silent, that's physically manifest. The brain is literally turning down the volume on the outside world and the inner monologue.
But the most profound finding confirms the description of J2, the rapture. The ancient texts claimed you could create internal, non-sensory bliss.
And the 7T fMRI confirmed it.
It literally confirmed the volitional activation of the brain's primary reward pathway.
We're talking about the dopamine system, the part of the brain that usually only lights up for, food, sex, money, external rewards.
Just specifically the nucleus accumbens, or NAC, working with the medial orbitofrontal cortex.
Mm-hmm.
In J2, there's this distinct, strong activation spike in the NAC.
That is direct objective evidence. The meditator is generating happiness through purely internal mental processes.
Bypassing the need for external stimuli entirely. It's the ultimate proof of volitional self-stimulation.
That's genuinely revolutionary. It suggests we have the neurobiological architecture to generate our own highest reward states just through trained concentration.
And this is where the jhana structure proves its worth. That reward system activation, it's stage-specific. As the meditator moves beyond J2 into the calmer third jhana,
into J3,
the NAC activation declines rapidly. It returns closer to baseline. And that decline perfectly tracks the subjective report that the intense, energetic pihiti drops out, leaving only the deeper, calmer sukha.
The neurology is perfectly mirroring the 2,500-year-old instructions. It's phenomenal validation.
It is, but they went deeper than just static activation. They looked at dynamic, functional connectivity, DFC, how different parts of the brain are talking to each other.
What happens to the conversation inside the brain?
Well, the brain fundamentally changes its internal meaning structure. They identified a state they called the DMN anti-correlated state.
The default mode network. That's our self-narrative, mind-wandering sense of identity.
Exactly, the frontal DMN in particular. As absorption deepens across the phanas, this anti-correlation, meaning the DMN is actively suppressed and negatively linked to the rest of the brain, it becomes dramatically more prevalent.
So the deeper the absorption, the less bandwidth the narrative I gets. The constant self-evaluation and chattering is just systematically deconstructed.
The brain is devoting resources away from internal narrative and toward focused presence. And conversely, another state, the hyperconnected state,
Which is?
characterized by elevated connectivity in sensory and bodily awareness regions. It's dominant in early, effortful concentration, but it significantly decreases as the meditator moves deeper into the effortless stages.
That makes perfect sense. As you let go of the physical anchors, like the feeling of the breath or body sensations, the connectivity for those sensory processes just dials down.
And then there are the EEG findings, which are just bizarre.
Bizarre how.
Researchers saw brain waves and flow waves, spindles, spike wave bursts that on the surface look like activity you see in deep sleep or even neurological irregularities.
Yeah. But the meditators are completely conscious. They often report feeling more alert than normal.
Exactly. So what's happening? The brain's electrical organization simplifies radically. Ordinary consciousness operates on a front-back axis, processing sensory input versus planning for the future.
In jhana.
That axis dissolves. Cortical activity simplifies into this dominating vertex hub near the frontal parietal junction.
A vertical axis. What's the implication of that shift?
It suggests a profound disruption of the self-evaluation system. The brain stops organizing itself around this duality of me versus the world. It suggests a singular, unified processing state, replacing that constant comparison that defines our ordinary sense of self.
So what does this all mean for the architecture of the brain over time? We've shown these profound temporary states, but does the practice create lasting structural change? Can we actually rewire our potential for well-being?
The evidence for structural neuroplasticity from long-term practice it's really compelling. This is where the temporary state leads to a permanent trait.
So long-term meditators show increased cortical thickness. Where exactly?
We see thickening in regions like the right anterior insula and the prefrontal cortex.
The very areas for sustained attention, sensory processing, interoception.
The feeling of the body from the inside, yes. It's like a neurological workout that strengthens the parts of the brain responsible for being present and regulating focus. And what's more, this practice is so protective, it can actually offset age-related cortical thinning.
So it's a powerful defense against the natural cognitive decline over time.
It is. And structurally, we also see measurable changes in the emotion regulation centers. Long-term practitioners have larger gray matter volume in the hippocampus.
Which is critical for modulating emotional responses and memory.
And inversely, they show reduced volume and activity in the amygdala.
The brain's fear and danger detection center. A smaller, quieter amygdala that suggests a permanent trait of emotional resilience.
Exactly. The brain is structurally less prone to firing off the emergency alarm for everyday stress. They're calmer, not because they're suppressing emotion, but because the brain itself has been reorganized to respond differently.
And this translates into measurable cognitive benefits. And I found the data here to be surprisingly rapid.
It is. We're not talking about a decade of practice. Even short interventions, 4 days, 20 minutes a day, showed rapid improvements in cognitive flexibility, vigilance, processing speed.
But the most insightful finding for me was about working memory. The study that showed improved GRE reading scores.
Yes.
How does quieting the mind help you understand dense text?
It's all about mental bandwidth. The study showed that the improvements were critically linked to a measured decrease in distracting thoughts.
Oh.
Think of your brain like a computer processor. Ordinary consciousness runs dozens of background apps. All that DMN chatter, the self-referential narratives, the anxieties.
They consume CPU.
A lot of it. Deep concentration practice is like forcefully deleting those background apps. You free up cognitive bandwidth that can now be devoted entirely to the complex task at hand. It literally makes you a more effective thinker.
The ability to control attention directly correlates with the quality of your conscious experience.
And your cognitive output. Then, wrapping up, the physiological benefits are just as clear. We see significant reductions in the stress hormone cortisol and measurable decreases in blood pressure.
It all points toward a shift to parasympathetic dominance, the rest and digest system.
Objectively indicated by improved heart rate variability, or HRV, the profound tranquility and absorption translates into a robust, calmer nervous system in daily life.
So, to summarize our deep dive, jhana isn't some fuzzy spiritual concept. It is a systematic, trainable path of absorption that neurologically deconstructs our conventional self-referential default mode.
It proves our capacity for volitional self-stimulation of internal reward pathway.
And results in measurable protective structural and cognitive rewiring across the lifespan.
And for the scientific community, the value here is that the traditional Buddhist framework, the Abhidhamma, offers these precise, pre-validated technical descriptions that serve as ideal, rigorous reference points for future inquiries into altered states.
This integration of ancient spiritual technology and modern science, it seems foundational for developing highly targeted interventions for things like mood disorders.
It really is. And here's the final provocative thought for you to consider.
Okay.
Studies of the deepest jhana states show that the brain activity, those powerful infraslow waves, are characterized by a scale factor related to the respiratory cycle. And it's almost 2 orders of magnitude slower than the high-frequency cycles of our conventional thought.
So if our ordinary sense of time is strongly linked to our brain's rapid processing speed.
What does this radical shift in the neural scale factor, this slowing down of the internal clock, do to the subjective experience of time and presence during deep absorption?
Something for you to mull or explore on your own.